I remember a number of years ago when I was serving in the United States Marine Corps, the conversations that we would have when we were out in the field. If you've served in the military, you know that term, out in the field. It's not a real field. Well, sometimes it's a real field, but not always. Out in the field means you're away from the base, you're out somewhere training, generally for a couple of days before you come home and resume normal life. I remember the conversations that we'd have during our downtimes out in the field. It's funny, when you're separated from the things that you really like, that's what you talk about because you can't have it. When we were out in the field, we talk about our favorite restaurants, favorite movies, the things we were going to do when we got home, how we were going to spend our weekend, all of the stuff we were missing because we didn't have access to it. It's amazing as humans, that's how it works. You'd think that being away from things means that we would forget about them, but really, as the saying goes, sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder. That's not always true, but so often that is exactly the case. We see with amplified vision the things that we really appreciate but don't have access to. We're going through a period of time as a nation where so much of that is what's happening in our hearts and in our minds and in the conversations that we're having with loved ones. We've been isolated from many of the things that we have taken for granted, many of the things that we've always enjoyed and we don't have access to now. And because we don't have access to them, those are the things that we're thinking about. One of the things that I believe in the United States, this is not true everywhere, but in the United States, one of the things that we take for granted is the free exercise of faith. In fact, free exercise of faith, religious freedom, is something that is ensconced in our founding documents. It's part of what makes us who we are as Americans. It's funny because during different times, maybe more normal times, we fight about religious freedom and we talk about this area where we don't have it or that area where it's overblown or these other fringe areas where it's been taken away. We fight about those things because it's important to us, but in a larger sense, we take for granted the free exercise of faith, our ability to practice out what we believe about God, about our relationship to God, about our relationship to creation, and all of those things that would be wrapped up in that word faith. And now we, in many ways, are separated from the free exercise of our faith or the free exercise of our religion. We can't be separated from faith. Of course, God is in all and over all. We can worship God wherever we are. But the gatherings that so often embody the practice of faith, those have been largely taken away from us. And so now, in a lot of ways, for a lot of people who once took the exercise and the practice of faith for granted, they're realizing just how important it is. There are a lot of people who will ask a question like this: is faith really important? Is faith important? Does faith matter? And if it matters, why? I think for so many Americans, they're having those thoughts and asking those questions right now in ways that they never would have considered just a couple of months ago. Because that's who we are. That will never be taken away from us. And yet here we are. Countries, or states rather, across our country, the churches and church people from all faiths are grappling with this idea of how they can get back to a place where they're meeting together in person, not just virtually, but in person. These are important conversations, and often they're heated conversations and they're passionate conversations because it's so important. But the question again is this: is faith important? And if so, why? I'd like to offer just a couple of things as a perspective today. In relationship to faith, this is certainly not exhaustive, but it's a perspective, something that needs to be considered. In a state like ours, the state of California, and I don't know where you're watching from, but I'm sitting in California, our governor has said that churches fall into the same category as sporting events. So from the governor's perspective, going to church is the same as going to a baseball game. There is no difference. And so because of that, people of faith either have to go against the governor's orders, the governor's rules, the things that he's placed on us to assemble together, or go along with his view that faith is no more important than a baseball game. And yet it is. But why is it? I think there are many answers to this question. And again, this is about all faiths, not a specific faith. And I have a specific belief system, and I'm sure that you do as well. But the idea of faith and the free exercise or practice of faith, it is important because we are created as human beings to desire connection with people who believe in a way similar to our own beliefs. We like to be around people who think like us and act like us and process the world the way that we process the world, who would hold to whatever standard we hold to. We do, as humans, like to come together with other humans who believe the way that we believe. Now, that's not to say that we should exclude those who don't believe the way that we believe, but historically, for generations on this planet, folks have come together in tribes of people who practiced the same practices and believed the same beliefs and did the same things. And it was that common set of beliefs, that core set of values that kept them together. It kept them safe. It kept them encouraged. It kept them protected from those things that would happen on the outside. Again, we need to be open and respectful of those who don't believe the way that we do. But we as people are wired to want to come together with others who believe the way that we believe. This is an important aspect of the human condition. And so to say that we need to remain locked in our own homes and not practice our belief with others who believe the same is a direct violation of how we're naturally created. Beyond that, we know that there is an important aspect of human communication that happens only in person. We can speak on the phone, we can speak through a computer screen via a Zoom meeting or some other way, we can watch a service online, but there is something that doesn't happen when being together doesn't happen. We must be in the same space and share that space in order to communicate fully as human beings. We're created to operate, to function in a tribe, if you will, a group of people who believe the way that we believe. We need person-to-person communication to make us fully who we are as humans. Beyond that, faith is important because we must have confidence or faith in something that transcends the time and space in which we live. It's incredible to me that we're going through a moment in time where hope has been lost in so many places, where the idea that there's something bigger than what we're living through right now, there's something bigger than that out there, and that in the midst of this chaos, there is someone, God, who is in control of all of it, and that's the one in whom we can have hope, faith, and confidence. It's amazing that at the moment in time we most need that is what's been taken away for us or relegated to phase 3 or 4 in the reopening process, because that's when gatherings like baseball games will come back into our national conversation. Faith, whether you practice faith or not, whether you believe it's important or not, faith, that is a belief in something bigger than us, outside of us, transcendent from us. Faith is how we're wired. Faith is how we're created. And we were created, designed to practice that faith with others of like mind and like heart. This is why people from all over the world have come to a place like this one, where they can exercise freely their faith. It's just that important. And to say that we need to simply wait until the government says it's okay to get back together in groups of people, communities of believers, others who hold the same faith traditions that we do, is absurd. Now, again, I know many people across this country are grappling with exactly how to move forward in light of governments who don't understand the importance of faith. But fundamentally, before we can begin to move forward, we have to step back and settle into the truth that faith is important. It's how we were created to live. And separated from other people of faith, separated from the community of folks who have a mind similar to ours, we are separated from hope and separated from that one who is transcendent, that carries us forward in spite of the difficulties we're all dealing with in our lives right now. This is where it starts. And so I don't know what you believe. I do know that many people who watch this segment that we produce every week sometimes comment that they could do without the faith aspect, and that's fine. You're welcome to that, and I appreciate the comments. But I'll tell you this. You may be living apart from faith, but you were not created to live apart from faith. And now, for the first time, perhaps in American history, many, many Americans across this country are beginning to understand that in real time. Is faith important? Yes. It's not just important, it's essential. And we need to get back to the place as quickly as possible where we're able to worship according to our conscience with others who hold to our faith.